Now, it's MOT time, and you're sat there like the expectant parent wondering if your car's going to be okay. But have you ever wondered what the MOT involves? Not only that, are you aware of the changes that will be coming up later this year? We're going to show you a few behind the scenes things so you can see exactly what happens in your MOT. So as part of the MOT test, you've got the usual things which involve things like checking the seat belts, checking for any particular warning lights that are on that shouldn't be on, and checking generally around the car to look for any serious defects that might be quite obvious. With the lights though, when you're actually checking the headlight alignment, there's now a special device that actually goes in front of the headlights, and you can actually measure how the beam's set up through that with each individual headlight. You can see how far it's off, and it's a lot better than it used to be with a pattern on the wall watching the light pattern, because you could have some variance. The device that checks the lights is quite complicated. It has a meter reading on the top. You shine the light in and it shows you then just how far the light is out. There's also a viewpoint on top of the device, as well as the lens at the front where the light is shone in. So the device is movable, so it's easily aligned to each car's individual headlights. The brake tests are done on a rolling road, which tests the efficiency of the front brakes, the rear brakes, and also the handbrake as well. Then we're on to the emissions test. So first there's a probe put into the sump through the dipstick hole, and this measures the temperature of the oil as the engine's running. This is more accurate than using a water gauge, for example, or checking the coolant in that respect. Until the oil gets above 60 degrees centigrade, certainly in diesels, no test will be performed. Another remote sensor is placed at the rear of the car into the exhaust pipe, and this is what will measure the contaminants coming out. Too high, or if there's something that's out of balance, the car will fail. But usually with the emissions problems, it's often down to a sensor that's running out of spec and needs to be replaced. Then we start moving on to checking things like the steering and suspension. On the ramp, there is a special area where the front wheels of the car go. These two plates that you can see the wheel on move side to side, effectively moving the wheel around to show if there's any wear and tear in ball joints, if there's any mount problems, so anything that could affect the steering quite seriously. While that happens, there's also a manual check through the engine bay to see if there's anything that's amiss with things like the drive shaft. Now we get onto the manual and visual checks of the steering and suspension systems. This is on top of the tests we saw earlier. This is to identify any inner ball joints, checks for other play in the steering and suspension systems that can't be seen easily, and see if they've actually causing a problem and failing. The car is then raised further for additional manual checks. As you can see with this one, there's a little bit of wear on one of the inner ball joints. Also at this point, brake pipes are checked along with the suspension systems such as the shock absorbers for leaking, suspension bushes, the tyre tread, and also the rubber seals on things like ball joints and the steering rack. The rear suspension is checked in a similar way. Before the car's lowered, the inside of the tyres are checked for problems with the tyre wall, and also things like the exhaust mounts are also checked. The underside of the car is also checked for structural defects, things like holes appearing in the floor or problems with the sills. Finally, once all those checks are done, the MOT is complete and the car can leave the bay. So, that was how MOTs have previously been done, but from May the 20th this year, 2018 if you're watching this further on, things are actually going to change. The brake discs are going to be checked for oil contamination. Any oil contamination on there which could affect the pads will result in a fail. But also, diesels are going to come under more scrutiny. especially if you have a DPF or diesel particulate filter fitted. Any smoke of any colour emitted by a car fitted with a DPF will fail straight away. Also, your DPF will get examined. If it appears that the DPF has been cut open and welded shut again, unless the owner can prove that this was for maintenance reasons, again, it's going to be a failure. If the DPF has been tampered with, again, it will be a failure. But if the DPF is missing, again, that's going to be a failure. So all those of you who've maybe removed your DPF and fitted a bypass of some form, you're going to have a problem as of May the 20th.